The team stood on the alien world, their hearts pounding in their chests. They had just uncovered a secret that would change everything. The Zolvans, Earth's longtime allies, were not what they seemed. For decades, Earth had trusted them, believing they shared the same values of peace and cooperation. But as they dug deeper into the ambassador's final messages, they discovered something shocking. The Zolvans had been hiding the truth about an ancient and ongoing war, a war that Earth had unknowingly been caught up in. The Krell, an enemy species older than the Zolvans, had been fighting for control of the galaxy for centuries. They had been quietly waging war against the Zolvans, and Earth had no idea. The ambassador had learned too much, and that was why he had been killed. His body returned to Earth in pieces was a warning. Someone wanted to silence him, and they were not afraid to send a gruesome message. The team stood in the control room of their ship, looking over the data they had uncovered. The Zolvans had always been one step ahead. They had infiltrated Earth's highest ranks, making their deception nearly impossible to detect. Some of Earth's top leaders were secretly working with the Zolvans, while others were unknowingly helping them. The realization hit the team hard. They were trapped in a web of lies, and they didn't know who they could trust anymore. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the ship. The lights flickered, and a chill ran down their spines. Something wasn't right. The ship was malfunctioning. The team rushed to the control panels, trying to figure out what was going wrong. But as they worked, another problem arose. Strange signals started flooding their communication system, signals they couldn't trace or understand. It was as if someone, or something, was trying to stop them from sending out the truth. "We need to get back to Earth," one of the team members said, his voice trembling. "The Zolvans can't know we're onto them." The captain of the ship, a calm and level-headed leader, shook his head. "We can't go back without the full truth. We need to expose them before it's too late." But as they continued their investigation, strange things began happening. Crew members started to disappear. At first, it was small things, tools going missing, equipment breaking down for no reason. Then, one by one, the team members started vanishing. No one could explain how or why. It was as if something or someone was picking them off, one at a time. The crew grew more paranoid. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It wasn't just the malfunctioning systems or the strange signals. It was the sense that someone somewhere was listening to everything they said. Every plan they made seemed to be predicted before they could even carry it out. It felt as though they were walking into a trap, and the Zolvans were always one step ahead. "Someone on this ship is working against us," the captain said one night, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to find out who it is before they sabotage everything." As the team members became more distrustful of each other, tensions began to rise. Everyone had a theory about who could be the traitor, but no one could prove anything. It was becoming clear that the Zolvans weren't just manipulating governments or military forces. They had infiltrated Earth in ways no one had ever imagined. The Krell, their secret enemies, had managed to infiltrate the Zolvans as well, and now it was a war of deception. Who could be trusted when every ally could be a hidden enemy? The crew's mission grew even more dangerous as they continued to uncover the truth. They realized they weren't just fighting to expose the Zolvans. They were fighting to survive. As the days passed, the mysterious malfunctions on the ship grew worse. More members of the crew disappeared, leaving only a few to continue their mission. And the more they uncovered, the more they realized the war wasn't just between the Zolvans and the Krell. It was a war for control of Earth itself. The captain's voice broke through the tension one evening, his eyes cold with determination. "We can't stop now. We have to expose the Zolvans, even if it costs us everything." The truth was out there, but it was buried so deep that finding it was like trying to catch shadows in the dark. And as the remaining crew members prepared to return to Earth with their findings, they realized something even more terrifying. The Zolvans and the Krell weren't just enemies. They were working together to ensure that Earth would remain in the dark about the true nature of the war. Both species had played a part in manipulating humanity for their own purposes. The team had no choice but to keep moving forward, even as they faced their greatest challenge yet. But the more they uncovered, the more they understood one painful truth. Earth had been the pawn in a game far bigger than anyone could have imagined. Would they be able to expose the truth before it was too late, or would they be silenced like the ambassador before them? Only time would tell. The team's investigation had already taken a dangerous turn, but nothing could prepare them for the revelations that came next. The truth about the Zolvans wasn't just shocking. It was a nightmare hidden in plain sight. As they carefully examined the ambassador's final reports and coded messages, they began to piece together a disturbing pattern. The Zolvans had never been the benevolent allies they appeared to be. Beneath their peaceful exterior was a web of secrecy and manipulation. The first clue had been the ambassador's final communication before his brutal death. His message had been fragmented, but it contained one clear statement. They've been lying. The war is real. Earth is the battleground. At first, the team thought the ambassador had simply been caught in some sort of diplomatic crossfire. But as they dug deeper into Zolvan history and their secret military operations, they began to uncover something far more sinister. The Zolvans weren't just hiding a war, they were actively waging it on Earth's soil. For years, their secret forces had been infiltrating Earth's political systems, manipulating leaders, and pulling strings from the shadows. Earth had unknowingly been caught in the middle of a conflict that wasn't theirs to fight. The Zolvans had made sure of it. By presenting themselves as Earth's allies, they had gained access to Earth's most sensitive information, resources, and technology. They had carefully planted their agents in key positions, allowing them to control or influence major decisions on Earth. But the Krell, their ancient enemies, weren't far behind. The Krell had infiltrated Earth as well, but their methods were different. Unlike the Zolvans, the Krell had no interest in disguising their true nature. They had launched a covert campaign to manipulate Earth's military and political factions, hoping to destabilize the planet for their own advantage. The two alien species had been at war for centuries, but now they had both set their sights on Earth, each hoping to use the planet's resources to win the war. The team was stunned by the depth of the conspiracy. How could Earth have been so blind? The Zolvans had played a careful game, building trust and alliances while secretly working against humanity's interests. But the Krell had played an even more dangerous game, using chaos and deception to sow distrust and division among Earth's people. It was no longer clear who was friend and who was foe. The lines between allies and enemies had become so blurred that no one could tell who was working for the truth, and who was simply trying to manipulate the situation for their own gain. As the crew tried to absorb the magnitude of what they had uncovered, they began to realize that their mission was no longer just about revealing the truth to Earth. It was about survival. Someone on the ship, or possibly even back on Earth, was working against them, trying to keep the secrets hidden. They knew that if they returned with the information they had uncovered, they would be putting themselves and their families in grave danger. The Zolvans would stop at nothing to ensure that their plans remained intact. But the situation was more complicated than they had imagined. As the team dug deeper, they discovered that the Krell were not the only enemies they had to worry about. The Zolvans had been manipulating Earth for so long that their control reached into every corner of human society. High-ranking officials in Earth's government had been compromised by the Zolvans, their actions guided by a hidden agenda. The team had no choice but to wonder, could they even trust anyone on Earth? Had the Zolvans already infiltrated the very people they were trying to protect? In a tense meeting, the team debated what to do next. Returning to Earth seemed like the only option, but there were too many risks. The Zolvans had already proven how ruthless they could be. If they were truly in control of Earth's leadership, the team might be walking straight into a trap. The Krell were just as dangerous, and it was likely they were already waiting for the team to make a move. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. But if they stayed on the Zolvan homeworld, They were sitting ducks. The clock was ticking, and they didn't have much time before they were discovered. "We need to expose this," the captain said, his voice steady but filled with tension. "If we stay silent, Earth's future is at risk. We can't let the Zolvans win." "But how?" one of the officers asked, his brow furrowed. "We don't even know who we can trust anymore. Everyone's been compromised." The captain paused for a moment, thinking. "We'll have to go public. We can't rely on our government to do it for us. We'll have to expose everything, even if it means putting ourselves in danger." The decision was made. The team would return to Earth with the information they had uncovered, no matter the cost. They would reveal the truth about the Zolvans and the Krell, and hope that humanity could handle the shock. They knew that it would change everything. It would tear apart the fragile peace they had fought so hard to maintain. But the truth had to be revealed, no matter the consequences. As the crew prepared to leave the Zolvan homeworld and head back to Earth, they knew they were entering a new and dangerous phase of the war. They couldn't trust the Zolvans, and they couldn't trust the Krell. But they had one thing on their side, the truth, and they were willing to fight for it, even if it meant facing down both alien forces and the betrayal within their own ranks. The journey back to Earth was long, and the weight of the truth pressed heavily on the shoulders of the crew. They had uncovered the lies, the manipulations, and the hidden war between the Zolvans and the Krell, but now they had to figure out how to expose it all. As the ship cruised through deep space, the crew members could feel the tension in the air. They had become increasingly paranoid, not knowing who they could trust. The Zolvans had infiltrated Earth's highest ranks, and it was clear now that some of Earth's leaders were working for the enemy, whether knowingly or not. The captain stayed out at the stars, lost in thought. He had always believed that the Zolvans were Earth's allies, that they were a peaceful race trying to help humanity grow. But now, everything he knew seemed like a lie. The Zolvans had been playing a dangerous game, and they had used Earth as a pawn in a war that had been raging for centuries. The Krell, their enemies, had been doing the same. The two alien species had been maneuvering behind the scenes, using Earth as their battleground, and Earth's people had no idea. It was becoming clear that the ambassador had known too much. His death was not a random act of violence. It was a message. The Zolvans had sent Earth a clear warning. Stop digging into the past, or there would be more consequences. But the ambassador had refused to back down, and now Earth had to deal with the fallout. The crew had discovered that the Zolvans weren't just playing a diplomatic game. They were willing to do whatever it took to protect their secrets, even if it meant destroying their own allies. As they neared Earth, the crew knew they were facing a difficult choice. They had to expose the truth, but they didn't know how the public would react. Would they believe them? Or would the Zolvans manage to cover everything up before the world could understand the gravity of the situation? The Krell, too, were lurking in the shadows. They had already infiltrated Earth's military, and it was unclear how far their influence stretched. No matter what they did, the team knew they were walking into a storm. The first sign that things weren't right came when they received a strange message. It was an encrypted transmission from a high-ranking officer on Earth, one they had worked with before. The message was brief but chilling. "You don't know who you're dealing with. Trust no one." The message had been sent from a secure government channel, but the team could tell it wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. Someone on Earth knew they were coming back, and that person didn't want them to expose what they had uncovered. "What does this mean?" one of the officers asked, staring at the message on the screen. "Is someone trying to stop us?" The captain's face hardened as he looked at the transmission. "It means the Zolvans are more entrenched than we thought. Someone in Earth's government is working with them. They're trying to keep us from telling the truth." The crew's fear grew as they realized the magnitude of the situation. Earth was not just divided between two alien factions. It was divided within itself. The lines between friend and foe had become blurred beyond recognition. The Zolvans had been playing both sides, controlling the narrative and manipulating key leaders, while the Krell had been infiltrating Earth's military, making sure no one was safe from their influence. Now, the team had to navigate a battlefield where they couldn't trust anyone, human or alien. They arrived back on Earth under the cover of night, knowing that every step they took would be watched. The mission was no longer just about exposing the truth, it was about survival. The Zolvans would stop at nothing to protect their secrets, and the Krell were waiting to strike. The team had to act fast, or they would be silenced before they could even make a move. The captain called a meeting with the crew. "We've learned too much to turn back now," he said. "But we need a plan. If we expose everything right away, we risk causing chaos. But if we wait, we might not live long enough to tell the truth." "We can't trust anyone," one of the officers said. "There are too many factions, too many enemies. The Zolvans and the Krell are playing us like pawns." The captain nodded. "That's why we need to find allies on Earth who aren't part of the game. There has to be someone who hasn't been compromised. We'll reach out to a select few and see who's willing to fight with us." The plan was risky, but it was the only one they had. They would reach out to a small group of trusted individuals, people who had no connection to the Zolvans or the Krell, and try to expose the truth from within. The team knew that time was running out. Every hour they delayed brought them closer to being caught in a trap. As the crew moved through the streets of Earth's capital, they felt the weight of their mission bearing down on them. They were no longer just soldiers or diplomats. They were the last line of defense for humanity. The Zolvans and the Krell had used Earth as a battlefield for so long that the planet's future was at stake. The truth needed to be exposed before it was buried forever. But as they reached their first contact, they discovered that the Zolvans' influence ran deeper than they had imagined. Their ally was nowhere to be found, and in his place was an agent of the Zolvans, waiting to silence them. "We knew they would be looking for us," the captain said quietly. "But we can't stop now. This is just the beginning. We'll find another way." The crew knew the fight was just beginning. The truth had to be revealed, no matter the cost. But as they continued to navigate the treacherous path ahead, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. The war wasn't just between the Zolvans and the Krell anymore. It was a war for control of Earth, and Earth's future hung in the balance. The tension was unbearable as the crew raced against time, trying to uncover a way to expose the Zolvans and the Krell without being completely destroyed. They knew they were walking on a razor's edge. Every moment that passed brought them closer to being found by either the Zolvans or the Krell, or worse, both. Their plans had been thwarted once already, and as they continued their efforts to gather support on Earth, it became clear that their enemies had been one step ahead the entire time. After the failed attempt to reach their initial contact, the crew was forced to retreat into the shadows, knowing that any further contact could expose them. They could feel the weight of the situation closing in on them. They weren't just running out of time, they were running out of allies. The Zolvans, it seemed, had eyes everywhere. No one was safe. Every move they made was being watched. Every word they spoke was being listened to. The captain gathered the remaining crew in their hidden base, a small, untraceable location deep within Earth's capital. Their only hope now was to dig even deeper into the mystery of the Zolvans' manipulation and find a way to turn the tide before Earth was completely lost. They had no allies left, except for the few who still believed the truth was worth fighting for. But it wasn't just about revealing the truth anymore. The stakes had grown higher, and the crew realized that they were not just battling alien forces. They were fighting for humanity's survival, for Earth's freedom from manipulation by forces that had been pulling its strings for far too long. "We need to hit them where it hurts," the captain said, standing in front of a large screen displaying a map of Earth. The Zolvans and the Krell have been using Earth's resources to fuel their war for centuries. If we can cripple their ability to control Earth's power, we can level the playing field. But how? The crew had no idea where the Zolvans' true power lay. It was clear they had infiltrated nearly every level of government, and their influence extended deep into Earth's military and corporate sectors. The Krell, too, had embedded themselves in key positions, especially within Earth's defense forces. Trying to fight them head-on seemed impossible. The captain knew that direct conflict wasn't the answer. Not yet. Instead, they would have to find the heart of the Zolvan's power, the secret that had allowed them to maintain control for so long, and destroy it. It was then that one of the officers, a quiet but brilliant strategist, had an idea. The Zolvans have been so focused on maintaining their control over Earth's resources and technology. But they've made one mistake. They've underestimated the very thing they've been manipulating: Earth's people. The captain turned, his interest piqued. Go on. Think about it, the officer continued, pacing slowly. The Zolvans and the Krell are playing a long game. They don't just want Earth's resources. They want Earth's people to believe they are at war with each other. Divide and conquer. But what if we unite them? What if we show the people of Earth the truth about the Zolvans, the Krell, and how they've been manipulated all along? We can turn Earth's own people against them. They've been relying on secrecy and manipulation. If we expose that, we can create a movement, a revolution. The captain's eyes narrowed as he considered this. It was dangerous, perhaps even reckless, but it was their only chance. They had no other allies to rely on, no other way to fight back. The people of Earth had to know the truth, and once they did, the tide might turn in their favor. If Earth's citizens could rise up, united against the alien forces that had controlled them for so long, they might stand a chance. The crew knew that if they went public, the consequences would be dire. The Zolvans would not hesitate to use all their power to crush any uprising. But they had to try. The team would begin broadcasting the truth, revealing the war that had been fought behind closed doors, the manipulation and the betrayals. The Krell, too, had to be exposed for their part in the conspiracy. Earth's people deserved to know that they had been pawns in a game they never knew existed. They worked quickly, setting up a network of underground broadcasters, those few on Earth who had not been compromised. The crew would send the message to the people, hoping to ignite a fire they couldn't put out. The first transmission would go out in the dead of night, a truth too large to hide, a truth that could not be ignored. "We're ready," the officer said quietly as the team watched the screen flicker to life. "Let's end this." With a deep breath, the captain gave the signal. The transmission began. "People of Earth," the captain's voice echoed across the darkened airwaves. "For too long, you have been deceived. The Zolvans, once thought to be your allies, are not what they seem. They have been manipulating you, using Earth as a battleground in their war with the Krell, an ancient enemy. Both sides have been pulling your strings, and you have paid the price for their battle. Your leaders, your governments, your military, many of them have been complicit in this. But you do not have to be their pawns anymore. The truth is out. The war between the Zolvans and the Krell is not your war. It's time to fight back. It's time to take control of your destiny." The message was clear, and it was out there for everyone to hear. The crew knew that it was only a matter of time before the Zolvans and the Krell retaliated. They had made their move, and now they had to wait. The hope that it would be enough to spark a revolution rested on the fragile shoulders of Earth's citizens. As the transmission ended, the crew stood silent, knowing that this was the point of no return. Whatever came next would determine the future of Earth. Would the people rise up against the aliens who had controlled them for so long? Or would the Zolvans and the Krell crush this final attempt at freedom? The captain turned to his team. "Now we wait." The battle for Earth's future had begun. The days following the transmission were tense, filled with uncertainty and fear. The crew of the ship stayed hidden in their safe house, their every movement under the watchful eyes of their enemies. They had unleashed the truth to the world, but now the most dangerous part of their mission was unfolding, waiting for Earth's people to rise up, and, at the same time, bracing for the inevitable retaliation from the Zolvans and the Krell. The world was watching, but how would it react? The transmission had been broadcasted in secret, reaching millions of citizens. The message was clear. Earth had been manipulated, used as a pawn in a war between two alien factions. The truth had shattered the illusion of peace, and the people of Earth were no longer in the dark. But would they rise to the challenge? Would they stand against the alien powers that had controlled them for so long? As the hours turned into days, the crew kept a close watch on Earth's communication channels, looking for signs of rebellion or government action. The Zolvans and the Krell would not take this exposure lightly. They would move swiftly to silence the truth and protect their secrets. The crew knew that any moment could bring the wrath of these alien forces upon them. Then the first sign came. A broadcast, an anonymous transmission, popped up on all public channels. It was a plea for unity, a call to arms. The people were speaking. The message echoed across Earth's major cities, urging citizens to come together, to demand answers, and to take action against the alien powers who have been controlling their lives for so long. "We are not alone," the voice in the transmission declared. "We are not pawns in their game. The Zolvans and the Krell have used us as their battleground, but no more. The time to fight back is now. We, the people of Earth, will take control of our destiny." It wasn't just a speech, it was a movement. Across the globe, citizens began to rally together. In the streets of major cities, from New York to Tokyo, crowds gathered, demanding the truth and calling for the removal of any leader who had been compromised by the Zolvans or the Krell. The revolution had begun, and it was gaining momentum fast. But the enemy wasn't idle. The Zolvans and the Krell had already anticipated some form of resistance, and they were prepared to strike back with everything they had. Earth's military forces, still heavily influenced by the two alien factions, began to mobilize in response to the growing unrest. The world was on the brink of chaos, and neither side was going to let go of control without a fight. The crew knew the battle for Earth's freedom was far from over. The truth had been revealed, but now Earth's people had to prove they were willing to fight for that truth. They had to be prepared for what was coming next. The Zolvans and the Krell were not going to back down, and the revolution needed more than just a spark. It needed a full-fledged uprising. As the situation escalated, the captain turned to his crew, his voice grim but resolute. "We've given Earth the truth. We've shown them what's been done to them. Now we have to make sure they have the strength to finish this fight. We have to lead from the shadows, guide them when they're uncertain, and stand with them when they need us the most." The crew nodded. They had started this fight, and now they had to see it through. It wasn't just a war against the Zolvans and the Krell anymore. It was a war for Earth's very soul. Humanity's future was at stake, and they would either be crushed under the aliens' boots, or they would rise to take control of their own destiny. Meanwhile, the Zolvans and the Krell were moving quickly to squash the revolution. Their agents were everywhere, covertly silencing leaders, infiltrating movements, and trying to twist the people's anger into chaos. They sought to discredit the truth, calling the transmission a lie, claiming the crew were mere traitors spreading propaganda. But the people of Earth were no longer so easily manipulated. They had seen the evidence, heard the calls for rebellion, and they weren't backing down. In the heart of Earth's capital, the rebellion's leaders, people who had once been ordinary citizens, began to organize. They knew the first step was to take control of Earth's communication networks, to counter the Zolvans and Krell's influence and make sure the world knew that they were in control. The movement spread like wildfire, fueled by the truth and by the courage of those willing to risk everything to see their world free from alien manipulation. But the Zolvans were not defeated yet. They launched their counterattack, sending their most loyal agents to stop the growing rebellion. They began striking at key infrastructure, communication towers, military bases, and government buildings, trying to force the people of Earth back into submission. It was a brutal crackdown, but the people of Earth were ready. They fought back fiercely, determined to keep the revolution alive. The crew of the ship, hidden from sight, continued to monitor the situation, guiding the revolution from behind the scenes. They were the silent architects of the movement, helping where they could, but always remaining in the shadows. Their only goal now was to see Earth free, free from the Zolvans, free from the Krell, and free to chart its own path. As the revolution gained strength, the crew knew that the final battle was coming. The Zolvans and the Krell would not give up easily, but the people of Earth had finally realized their power. The truth had sparked something in them, something they couldn't ignore. They had awoken from the deep sleep of manipulation, and they were ready to fight. The captain stood in front of his crew once more, his voice filled with conviction. "This is it," he said. "Earth's future is in their hands now. We've given them the truth, and we've given them the strength. We've done all we can. It's time to let them finish what we started." The crew nodded in agreement, knowing that their work had been worth it. The fight was no longer just about them. It was about Earth, about its people, and about the freedom they had been denied for so long. The final battle for Earth's freedom had begun, and the crew of the ship knew that no matter what happened, they had given humanity the chance to fight for a future free from alien control. The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth was no longer just a pawn in the war between the Zolvans and the Krell. It was a battlefield of its own, and the people were ready to take control.